Dear all, welcome to this video. Please hit the subscribe button so that you automatically get updates for upcoming videos and lectures. Thank you. Enjoy watching.
The microbial mechanism of pathogens. Now, how these pathogens enter. Now, so here you can see these are the portals of entry. So, from which routes they can enter into your body. So, first is the mucous membrane. Mucous membrane, wherever it is present, it may be nasal, it may be respiratory, it may be gastrointestinal, genitourinary, or conjunctiva. It may be skin or directly through blood. So, these microbes they can invade through all these portals of entry. Later on, after having entry into the body, they will have to penetrate. So how they will penetrate? They will have to either break the cell wall of the human cell, not the human cell, any host cell, or should have some enzyme so that they can dissolve the cell wall and they can enter inside the cell, or they may have some toxins which will be released and through which they will cause disease to the particular patient. So these are the penetration routes. It may be capsules so for attachment, because once you have to enter, you have to also surpass that microbe has to surpass the phagocytosis. Otherwise, it will get easily removed. So all these mechanisms help that particular microbe to remain in body for a long period of time and to overcome the immune defense mechanism. Next is the damage to the host cell. Now, what are the damages the particular microbe cause? So, first is hydrophores. Direct damage it may cause, it may release some toxins like endotoxins or exotoxins, which may further lead to cell death, lysogenic conversion, and cytopathic. Cytopathic effect here it means cell death or damage to the cell. And the portals of exit is the same as that of entry. The route through which it has entered, through same route it will be removed. So now here we will see the host parasite interaction. This is a prokaryotic cell, okay, which is a virulent cell. For example, it is a bacteria. Now this is your host cell or eukaryotic cell. Now these are known as the receptors which are present on the cell. As you all know, there are different types of receptors. So what will happen is this particular bacteria will first come and attach. Now these are the pili or fimbriae which are present on the bacteria for adhesion purpose. So first it has to adhere to the cell wall. So once it gets adhere, then what will happen? Then they will form colonies. Okay, because a single cell cannot cause a disease. It has to grow in number. It has to multiply in such an amount so that it can convert a particular infection into a disease. So here it will form colonies. And finally, after forming colonies, they will enter inside the cell. So here you can see, here they have just formed the colonies, and here after forming colonies, they have entered inside the cell. So here we will see the term virulence. As I discussed, it is the strength of that particular microbe to convert an infection into a disease. Okay, the term virulence is only related to the strain of the bacteria or strain of the microorganism, whereas pathogenicity is related to the microbial species. Okay, so say for example, Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Now this is a pathogenic microbe. Everyone knows Mycobacterium tuberculosis causes TB. So this is a pathogenic microbe. But which strain of that particular microbe is virulent, it will depend upon the virulence factors which the strain possesses. Say for example, a particular strain may contain an envelope, the other strain may not. So the one containing the envelope is more virulent, because if you have an envelope around it, or if you have a capsule around a particular bacteria, it becomes difficult for the phagocytes to cause phagocytosis. So indirectly they are overcoming the defense mechanism, and which may lead to increase in the disease. The term exaltation here you can see, it means increase in the virulence factor. Okay, so this increase in virulence factor may be due to the different virulence mechanisms present in that particular microbe. Say for example, a particular microbe was there, it underwent mutation and it caused increase in number of capsules. Okay, so the capsules or the spikes which are available, or you can say it may cause increase in the number of villi. So since the number of villi has increased, it has gained more strength to get attached to the particular cell, and during the wash out process of the body, it will not get easily washed because it will hold the cell firmly due to the increase in the number of villi. Okay, so that particular microbe has become more virulent and the virulence factor has increased. So that term is known as exaltation. And the complete opposite of it is attenuation. Attenuation is what? Decrease in the virulence factor. And usually whatever vaccines are there is a type of vaccine called as attenuated vaccines, where the pathogenicity or where the damaging ability of that particular microbe is reduced by reducing its virulence factors, and then it is introduced into the body of the host cell, which may lead to, due to the presence of antigens, it will lead to production of antibodies, and it will cause prophylaxis of that particular disease. Okay, now these are the different virulence factors. Here you can see. Now, what will these virulence factors? First, we'll see what is the use of these virulence factors. It will help the bacteria to invade the host, so that the bacteria can enter inside the cell. It will convert that particular infection into a disease, and it will also evade the host defense. The host defense will get invaded. It will not be removed easily by the host defense. Now, what are the different mechanisms by which you can show the virulence factors, or which are the virulence factors through which the bacteria can remain in body for a long period of time? So first is attachment via adhesins. So here you can see there are different mechanisms by which a particular bacteria can adhere to the host cell. So first here you can see this is the fimbrial adhesion. These are the small fimbrials which are present, and this is your host cell membrane. So this is a glycoprotein to which these fimbriae are getting attached with the help of glycolipid. Next is the afimbrial adhesion. Afimbrial adhesion is there is no presence of fimbriae, that directly this glycoprotein is getting attached to the cell wall of the bacteria. So in the absence of adhesion also, or in the absence of fimbriae also, the particular bacteria can get adhered to the cell wall. And the last is the hydrophobic adhesion, where hydrophobic interaction takes place between the cell wall of the host cell and the bacterial cell wall. Okay, and it will remain adhered to it. So first is attachment. Next is colonization. Colonization is increase in the number. So obviously it is important because single cell cannot cause a disease. You need large number of bacteria or large number of microbes to cause a disease. Invasiveness. Invasiveness is entry inside the cell. Just remaining adhered to the cell wall is not enough. You have to enter inside, and then the particular toxic effects can be observed. Next is toxins and enzymes. So here you can see the endotoxins, exotoxins released by the enzyme, by the bacteria, or some enzymes released by the bacteria, which may cause cell death of this particular host cell. And last is inhibition of phagocytosis. If you can overcome the process of phagocytosis, then the particular bacteria will remain in the body for a long period of time, and it may cause disease. So here you can see attachment. We have already seen fimbriae. Some bacteria, some may attach directly by cell wall, some may also attach by the capsules. Okay. So here you can see the different organs available for attachment. It may be flagella, it may be cell wall, it may be ribosome, or it may be cilia. Okay. So next is colonization. As I told you, single cell cannot cause. You have to increase the number of microbes, and then only it is possible for a particular microbe to cause a disease, because colonization will help in invading the microbe. It will help in invading the host cell. Sorry, not the microbe. It will help in invading the host cell. Now these are the virulence factors. It is same again repetitive. So invasiveness, third one is the invasiveness. Now here in invasiveness, there are different mechanisms for colonization. So these mechanisms can be seen over here. So now this is the enzyme known as hyaluronidase. Hyaluronidase is usually secreted by some bacteria. So what is the function of this hyaluronidase? What it will do is, now see, this is the intact epithelial cell of the host. Okay? So when this bacteria invades, what will happen is this bacteria will release the enzyme called as hyaluronidase. Okay, and here you can see there is a layer made up of collagen, which provides strength to the cell wall. So what will this bacteria do? It will release two enzymes, hyaluronidase and collagenase, which will disrupt the two cells, that is the glue of the cell, whatever glue is present, The glue is usually hyaluronic acid. It acts as a glue between the two cells. So this hyaluronic acid is decomposed, and what will happen? A gap is produced. And here you can see even the collagenase enzyme will destroy the collagen layer, and this will help the bacteria to directly enter inside the tissue. Next is the enzyme known as streptokinase. Now here what happens is, now see, this is the bacteria. So this bacteria has released an enzyme called as coagulase. So what is the function of this coagulase? It will form a clot. Okay, so here you can see there is a clot formation, and inside this clot is bacteria are present. So now this clot will be recognized by the human body as the own body part, and hence it will not be phagocytosed. Okay, and later on, after it enters to the bloodstream, there is an enzyme, the bacteria will release an enzyme called as kinase, which will dissolve this clot, and all those bacteria will get released into the bloodstream. Fourth mechanism is toxins and enzymes. So there are different toxins and enzymes which are released by the, now enzymes we have already discussed. So now this hyaluronidase, coagulase, streptokinase, so all these are enzymes which are released by the bacteria for invasion purpose. Other than that, there are also released toxins. Bacteria also release toxins. I hope everyone knows there are two types of toxins, endotoxins and exotoxins. We will see them in detail, what is the difference between them. But what is the pathological effect of these toxins? It may be neurotoxin, it may be enterotoxin, or it may be cytotoxin. Now, what is the function of the neurotoxin? Obviously, it will affect your nervous system. Enterotoxin will affect your GI tract, and the cytotoxins will cause cell death. Okay. So here you can see exotoxins. Exotoxins are proteins which are produced inside the pathogenic bacteria, that is inside the bacteria. Usually gram-positive bacteria will produce it. It is completely opposite to its name. Exotoxins, but they are produced inside the bacteria, and endotoxins means they are produced outside the bacteria. Okay, and these are, exotoxins are usually protein in nature, and endotoxins are usually lipopolysaccharides in nature, and they are produced by gram-negative bacteria, whereas exotoxins are produced by the gram-positive bacteria. And endotoxins are released when the bacteria die, whereas exotoxins, they are released, and as a result of it, the bacteria dies. So this is the difference. As I told you, chemical properties: exotoxin is protein, endotoxin is lipopolysaccharide. Mode of action or symptoms, they are usually cytotoxin. So whatever the severe conditions are there, like cytotoxin, enterotoxin, neurotoxin, so that is due to exotoxins. And endotoxins, they usually cause common symptoms like fever, diarrhea, vomiting, and all. Toxicity is high in case of exotoxins, it is low in case of endotoxins. Immunogenicity, highly immunogenic, this is poor. Toxoid potential, easily destroyed with the help of formaldehyde, and here it is not possible to destroy. And they do not produce fever in case of exotoxins, whereas endotoxins, they will cause fever. Enzymes I've already discussed, so I won't repeat it again. And finally is the inhibition of phagocytosis. So first we will see the process of phagocytosis. So here you can see the bacteria, it is getting entered inside it. So this is the receptor through which, that is known as pseudopodia. So it will enter, engulf the bacteria. Once it engulfs it, it forms a vacuole which is known as phagosome. This phagosome combines with lysosome. Now lysosomes contains usually lytic enzymes which will destroy that particular bacteria. So this whole thing, phagosome plus lysosome, is known as phagolysosome. So these lytic enzymes, here you can see the bacteria has been completely destroyed, and finally it is removed by exocytosis. So how you can overcome this phagocytosis? So there are some bacteria which produce a protein called as M protein, which will help you to avoid or overcome the process of phagocytosis. Other than that, you can avoid, you means the microbes can avoid contact with, they will not come in contact itself with the phagocytes. They will inhibit the process of engulfment. So this is usually done with the help of capsule. If a particular microbe has a capsule, then it will not undergo the engulfment process. And survival inside of the cells means, though you are being phagocytosed, still with the help of lytic enzymes will not be killed. Here you can see this is incomplete phagocytosis, that is survival inside the cells. And here with the help of a capsule, you will not be engulfed. So here is the summary of the virulence factors: exotoxins, adhesion pili, capsules, virulent enzymes, lipopolysaccharides, that is endotoxins, and plasmids and toxin producing agents in flagella for adhesion purpose. Thank you.